New looks, new looks, new looks, new looks. Okay, real quick, I just want to go. I'm gonna go to the Heroes and a Half Court channel and see if we are live. Oh, I got an. I'm pretty sure I just got a noti. Yeah, I got the noti. We are live. All right, you ready, Chris? All right. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the HHC podcast. I am your host, Jacob Moreno, and I'm here with my brother Chris. Chris, it's been a fat minute, man. How have you been?
Yeah, the off season was an extended one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm busy, but exciting. Times in this exciting times to be a Spurs fan, So we're here.
No kidding, no kidding. We have had an eventful last 3 months, 4 months of the Spurs off season. There's a lot of things that have happened to us. Obviously, our elephant in the room, Wemby. But we've also had a lot of other small things that can be very very big to us, very influential in like how we're going to be looking at this season as a whole. So we just wanted to do like a quick little episode zero. We don't have Juan or Josh here today. They're at work, living their best lives right now. So we just wanted to kind of get on, just talk a little bit of Spurs ball just before the season was going to start. And we're going to have a little bit of input from them too before we get into the actual season as a whole. So, but yeah, the Spurs have had, like I said before, a very crazy, very impactful off season and very changing off season. We got the number one pick, we got our guy, and it was something that like if you go to my Twitter specifically, you can go watch a video of me, Juan, and Josh all reacting to getting that number one pick. It was crazy. It was crazy. We were so excited seeing all that kind of stuff happen. I'm glad I was in San Antonio with my family to see the draft happen. I'm glad I was able to kind of watch some summer league with them before we before I had to come back to Lubbock and come back to another set. As you can see, another new crib, another new look for me. I think I've had a new look every single year that we've done this, so it's been cool. It's been fun. I've been growing, and just like the Spurs, we're continuing to try to do new things, to have a new look on whatever we do as a whole. And so even this year, right now for HHC, we're gonna be doing a lot of different things this year that are looking very very forward to try to make this feel like a lot more of a better podcast, and something that we're just very excited to get into. But back to our Spurs talk. We had a lot of different transactions happen to us. We had again our number one pick come to us, but we also had some other smaller deals that I think we definitely could be looking into and seeing how much it's going to affect us, or how much it didn't affect us, and whether or not you like those kind of deals that the Spurs made, or whether or not you did like what we're doing. Some of the things include like trading for a guy like Cedi Osman, even trading for Reggie Bullock for that short time. Players that normally wouldn't really see a lot of minutes on contenders, or some role players, pretty much, right? And we pretty much put them, or we pretty much are giving those guys opportunity to be able to gain that trade value. And I think that's going to be a big deal because, I mean, we're a young squad. We're going to be looking to try to surprise a lot of people, but we're also kind of playing this year to look at what the next 3 to 4 years are going to look like. And that's something that's very interesting to me. Something that I really didn't like, the fact that like in this preseason we've been playing Cedi Osman, but I can get behind it because I think I've talked about this many times before in years prior, but I'm always down for getting an asset, making him look good, making him look like a competitor, and then a contending team giving us some draft capital or giving us a young player in return for it. So Cedi has also looked amazing in the preseason for us. So in my initial thoughts of like doing trades like that, I wasn't too happy, but very very excited to see what a guy like Cedi would do. But Chris, like I said, we've had a lot of different moves happen, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you've been thinking about what our off season's kind of looking like.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of say like some of the stuff that you were saying about like before we even get into the Spurs talk about just like the changes that we want to try to make for the channel and the show and stuff like that. So, um, I'm excited to be open to all the different approaches we're gonna try and see what works and be flexible with with how we want to present it and all that kind of stuff. So, um, this kind of got my spirits high, and then obviously we get when Wimby's coming to town, the city's been on a high for all summer, right? Well, I mean, I know you're a little bit removed from it, but from yeah, it's on. You know what I'm saying? And with us being only 3 days away, you know what I'm saying? Only 3 days away. uh, it's here. It's here. So, and I don't want to bypass all the I won't bypass all the preseason stuff and off-season acquisitions, but just to say that my spirits are high, you know what I mean? And it's been like that most of this off-season. Um, what can we say about like getting Wemby, right, and all the excitement that it's been since then? It feels like forever already. Shoot, we've just been off this whole time, so it's even hard just to kind of think about. Like I wasn't with you guys for that hype video, but I was actually working, so. It was I kind of found out after the fact, but I definitely remember the drive to dinner that night, just kind of yelling all the way there, screaming as you're driving down the highway. So it's been a fun summer.
No, I
Um,
mean, like it's one of those things too where you hear it like or you see it on Twitter all the time or X. I'm gonna keep calling it Twitter. I don't care. Like that's like a change that happened over the off season, I guess. But I'm gonna continue to call it Twitter. I don't know what about you,
Off-season
Chris.
acquisition is Elon Musk and Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that like I'm just gonna keep calling it Twitter, just because that's what I've known it as. But you see it on Twitter all the time, and it's like I tweeted out, other people tweeted out. You just see people just be like, I woke up today and I was happy because we got Wemby, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you're just happy. You're just so happy that you got a guy like that, a franchise cornerstone, to move the rock, right? So it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously we'll get into just like what we've seen so far, but it's been insane. Been a fun time. How do you want to start? I mean, you want to just jump right into what have we seen in preseason, or let's start with the SETI stuff real quick. Let me kind of follow up what you were saying on the SETI stuff, and then we'll get that out of the way.
Yeah. No, for sure. I
To be
mean,
honest, originally when we get a guy like SETI, he was kind of like not an afterthought, but he was kind of included in some side stuff, right? Like basically to help money out. At least that's what it looks like from like my point of view. And so when I would stack him up to a guy like Bullock, I just feel like I maybe had seen Bullock more playing in Dallas versus seeing Seti in Cleveland. Like I wasn't really watching Cleveland, to be honest. So when it came down to like if we could hang on to one of them, I was always siding with trying to hang on to Reggie. Um, when he went straight like into that, I think it was. What did he get bought out? Is that what it was?
yeah, Reggie Bullock, whenever he got bought out earlier in the
Yeah.
offseason, right?
Yes. So when he gets bought out, my first reaction to it, I was like, dang man, like that's the one I was hoping to keep. Kind of like his energy, like his effort. You know what I'm saying? I haven't heard any bad things from him as like a person and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So was down to keep him, but man, Seti, he's like, he's bigger than I kind of imagine him. You know what I'm saying? Um, his motor's high right now. I don't know, like in general, if that's like how he plays all the time, but so far in the preseason, he's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Maybe so you could make the argument that he's like not trying too hard, but that like the amount of energy he's putting in is outshining and taking away opportunities for some of the young guys. But the same way I've always been on board for like a guy like Rudy Gay being on our roster and having to show a young Derek White and a young DeJounte and those guys like this is how you like have to assert yourself sometimes. If a guy like said he comes in and that's all he provides, you know what I'm saying? Like and some defense and all that kind of stuff, and then yeah, let's go. So I've been way more receptive to it since seeing him play.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean I agree. Like, cause same thing in the off season, I see us get a guy like Reggie Bullock, and I'm like 3 point threat. Like he's not like the most consistent 3 point shooter in the world, but when he's on it, he could win a game for us. Like one or two through the year, and that's like you show that value, right? When a guy like Seti, his skill set's a lot more versatile. It's something that you really do have to watch his game to kind of see what you would want out of it, right? And
Mm.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't really tune into Seti Osman Cavs highlights. That's nothing that I was like really looking into. I know there's a whole Seti Osman fan club on Twitter, but that's nothing that like I wasn't really a part of that. And when we traded for him, I was like, okay, that's cool. Let's cut him. Let's keep Reggie. Like let's. I would rather keep that 3 point threat, somebody that I know for sure could be helpful to us in that movement, rather than just the uncertainty of what Cedi Osman could do for us. But he's blown me away in the preseason alone. So I'm excited to see what he's gonna give us in the regular season, and I'm excited to be wrong. Like it's nothing that I'm heard about. I'm glad to be wrong. I'm glad that a guy like that is going to um, prove like that he's worthy of having that roster spot and of being part of this rebuild rather than sadly buying out Reggie Bullock and seeing him go to a different rebuild in the same state. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm gonna ride with my guys that we got going on, and I'm not going to. You're not going to hear me be like, we don't need these people on this team, and or like anything like that, because they're gonna all provide their value at some point somewhere. So,
Yeah,
so
that's kind of the energy I'm trying to be on for this next year also. I mean, there's a lot of excitement, but what excites me, or one of the things that also kind of excites me, is just like you can tell that the expectations have been risen, right, from the coaching staff and from the players and all that kind of stuff. So that excites me because that's what Spurs basketball is, right? Is like it's very well executed. It has a lot of pride for itself, um, and it takes itself seriously, and it's successful. You know what I'm saying? Like those are the things that encapsulate what playing for our organization should mean, right? Or have meant in for a long stretch of time. So I'm excited for them to try to hold themselves to that standard. Um, that's how I grew up, like learning to like basketball. You know what I'm saying? Because my favorite team was one of the better teams. So you get accustomed to that kind of stuff as a fan. So I'm excited to see that, so that it kind of scratches that itch for me. You know what I'm saying? Like as a fan, to be able to back them up, like you said, and be supportive of them, but also try to hold them, not hold them to a standard, because I'm not their coach. You know what I'm saying? But that's the way I like to see basketball played as well. You know what I'm saying? So pulling it together at that point.
for sure, for sure. And I mean, we're talking about the guys that we just added, but I mean, we also got some studs from last year that are going to be looking to prove it this year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I mean, he said it in interviews. A guy like Keldon, he's ready. He's ready to show how much he's improved and how much last year just didn't really mean a lot in terms of like how he is as a player. He just did what we asked of him, and he tried it to his very best. But I think everybody understood that last year was not the type of situation that Keldon needs to be in order to be a successful NBA player. Um, and so he heard all that noise this last year. He said it. He said that he heard all that noise, and he's ready to prove a lot of people wrong this year. And I'm very excited to see that kind of stuff from a guy like Keldon. I'm very, very excited to see what we can or see what's going to come from both him and Devin this year. Chris, how do you like? I mean, how do you feel about those two guys specifically going into this year?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Keldon, I mean, he's what most people consider like the engine of the team, or the whatever of the team for the past couple years, right? But then here he comes in this offseason, and he's like much more like his demeanor is a little bit more toned down, and not to say he was like solemn or any of that kind of stuff, but it just seemed a little bit more focused, a little bit more like we're there's a mission at hand. You know what I'm saying? So um, part gets you excited because you're like, oh, you see it as a moment of like, okay, it's his time to kind of mature a little bit into like the second phase or the phase 1.5 of his career. You know what I'm saying? He's going into year what, 5 for him?
Yeah, yeah, year
Uh,
5.
um, you know what I'm saying? So he has new responsibilities, but also like I said before, like the real more realistic expectations are there. So it's like, okay, last year we had responsibilities, but we everybody had said that it's about this, it's about getting better every day, da 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 da, and it's so for him to be one of our leaders, I'm excited to see how he responds to it. I hope because he uh, did mention like the seeing the critics or whatever, you know what I mean, a little bit in some of his like his interviews in the summer. Um, I hope that like if he stays more even keeled and it isn't as like outwardly expressive, you know what I'm saying? I hope that it doesn't get like taken as like, oh, he's struggling or he's like dissatisfied or he's, you know what I'm saying? And not to say that overall that it really matters because at the end of the day it's just internet talk, right? Who it doesn't, but I hope it doesn't go that way. Just
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Keldon as that type of person to really like feed into it. But I mean, we're in a new age. We're in a new age where you're
no,
seeing,
yeah, he's definitely above it. He's
yeah,
definitely above it, but his comments lets you know that he sees it, and
yeah,
so it's just like that. But that's for him to block out when he's in the end of the season. From a basketball point of view, though, like I hope that he continues to um, calm in the right ways, be very decisive. That one play that he got, it might be the play where he did flex his bicep and kiss his bicep or something, but where he kind of splits a double team or something like that. But just as soon as he make his decisions, very reminiscent of like a running back, right, where all the chaos is happening, the lane opens up and then they have the power to just go. You know what I'm saying? Like on a dime, and he splits that thing and takes off. That was like the most impressive part about it is just the speed of him getting into his move. So I want to see that. I just want to continue to see that kind of stuff. He's gonna have ample opportunity, right? Coming off of whatever Dev is gonna do to alleviate pressure from him, whatever Wemby's gonna do to alleviate pressure from him. And then secondary a guy like Jeremy and Zach, you know what I'm saying, or Trey or Malachi or something like that. So he's gonna have tons of opportunity. So I'm ready to see him. He's on top of my list.
me too, me too. And I mean, hey, I'm very excited to see what a guy like Keldon is gonna do, in the roles that we got him in this year. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like we're not going to see him be as ball dominant as he was last year. So when we see those ball dominant like moves happen, you're like, oh yes, like that's just a better addition to what we're looking at this year. Because I mean, last year like his handle it was fine, but like you were saying, like the move that everybody's been watching from Keldon has been the one where he like puts it between his legs, crosses or goes right through the double team, and then like finishes right, and it's beautiful because you're just like you never saw Keldon do that ever last year, but this year like just the fact that Wemby's on the court, the fact that Devin's like becoming more of a 3 point threat that he already was, it makes it even easier for a guy like Keldon to make that type of move, and the team just kind of look at them and be like, what are we gonna do against this? Like he's he's like gonna look even better on the court this year, and I'm super excited to see what that's gonna look like for him. And then like I showed the graphic earlier that showed what the duo look like, and that's because the other person that I'm so excited to watch this year is my guy Devin Vassell. He looks so good right now, man, and it's preseason. You never want to like have like wild perception from what you're looking at, but man, Devin's game just looks so smooth right now, and it looks beautiful to watch. And I'm super excited to see this man play with Wemby on the court for as much as they can. And shout out Devin for getting that extension too, man. I'm so excited to be having this jersey, this Devin Vassell jersey for another couple years. Keep wearing it, keep repping it. I got another one in the closet, probably another one shipped on the way soon. So I'm super excited to see Devin this year, and I mean, I've been able to say that I've loved this man's game from day one, and I'm just so happy of the growth that we're seeing. So, Chris, how do you see it, man? How you feeling about it?
Yeah, he's been a sniper, man, this offseason so far. Uh and obviously his numbers they're gonna drop to some kind of average, or you know what I'm saying. He's probably you want to see improvement from his numbers last year, and I'll be honest, I don't even know what they were, because I wasn't tapped in that way last year to care to dive into the numbers. It was just about watching them grow and seeing how they kind of were handling what was trying to be thrown in front of them. Um, but if he can take 10, I think me and Juan were talking about it, and if he can settle in on 10 to 12 3-point attempts per game, I'm not going to complain, because you know that they're going to come from, again, like, they're going to come from um, not miss direction, but opportunities that Wemby's going to create just from his the attention he's getting, um, or he's just getting way more comfortable coming off these screens and rising up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just coming from his development. He just looks super confident. So I'm gonna feel comfortable where with him jacking him, not jacking him up, but getting him up. You know what I'm saying? Um, if he can doesn't have to be as aggressive as Keldon, like in terms of the ferocity of it. But if he can be aggressive in terms of trying to look for opportunities at the rim continuously, um, I mean, like, as you feel like he can do it from anywhere. You feel like he's
Hmm.
gonna be comfortable. He's gonna look just like Rudy Gay pulling up from mid range.
Let
You know
him
what I'm
let
saying?
him be that
So
three level threat. Let him be that three level
yeah,
threat on
like
the
he
court.
he just looks like he's so just love the way our team is constructed, in the way that, like, and is the one that's a little bit way more smooth, way more calm. You know what I'm saying? So I just want him to step into that way more. So again, not necessarily the city of it, but just maybe the frequency of it. Right there's been times where last year you and Juan and probably Josh too would kind of like point out, like, dang, Dev has this much in the first half, but then it goes away in the second half or something like that. So just looking for that consistent push from him for 48. um, You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Maturity in those kind of ways, and I think we'll see it.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it as well.
for sure, man. I mean, like
And
you're
and, he- and
saying.
he's coming off of an extension. You know what I'm saying? And having things to prove and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah,
I mean,
the stars are aligning for all of our
it,
guys to take steps forward.
it's gonna be shown that he's worth all that money. And I mean, if you don't think he is worth that money, then you just don't know ball. Like, that's just how that is. Because I mean, like, you see the amount of money that these guys get now, and him making the extension that he got isn't out there. It isn't outlandish. Yes, it's I'm pretty sure it's probably our most expensive contract that we've given out in Spurs history, but it's not like it's nowhere near the most expensive contract that like has been given out ever in the NBA, and that's just because of how the CBA works, how the cap works now. So we're allowed to give that kind of money to a guy of Devin's caliber, and it's gonna look like, by year 3, year 4 of that extension, it's gonna look like that is a steal of a deal, and it makes a guy like Keldon's contract look even greater than what it was, because Keldon's making like 8 million less than Devin right now. So it's it's definitely something that you're very excited to like see that kind of stuff. Very excited to see um, how he's gonna be looking this year. But you know, I said it earlier. We have a huge elephant in the room. We have somebody that we know everybody's gonna want to talk about him, and I kid you not, I'm probably gonna try to make a segment almost every week talking about him, and we probably will talk about Wemby for about 30 minutes every podcast, just because this is new for everybody, and we're so excited to see that kind of stuff happen. We're so excited to see how Wemby's gonna be looking, and I mean, that's our guy now. That's our number one pick. He's gonna be the person that hopefully is going to be leading us to the promised land multiple times in his career. Somebody that we're going to be looking to see as a next generational player. But we're only in year 1 of it, which means we're taking it slow, which means we're seeing what is looking good and what isn't looking good, what we got to work on, and what we already get to see that's good from him. I've been like blown away, and I didn't have like high expectations for Wemby, but I definitely was like, well, I watched the summer league and I was like, okay, there's some things that we can definitely work on, but he looks solid. He looks solid. I think he's gonna look really solid through the year. I was hoping for at least a double average, as like my summer league predictions, right? But man, he's just blown us away this preseason. And Chris, I mean, is there anything that you got to say about Wemby that like you've seen from this preseason, even the summer league, that like has blown you away, or the things that you like that you didn't like from him? What are your
I
overall thoughts
mean,
from him?
I honestly don't really remember too much of summer league because I mean, he had like he had like a regular first game and then like a pretty solid second game or something like that, right? Is that that's how it checked out? Um, but you said like we're gonna be spending 30 minutes per podcast talking about Wemby or like I'm gonna have to or something like that. But it's like he's gonna he's gonna make you have to talk like about him for that much because it just happens. Like you said, it's so brand new to us. Like everything that he does when he's out there, so often you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know what I'm saying? It's just I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to even kind of put into words like what the expectations are going to be. You're going to hope to be patient and temper your own expectations, but you're going to be wanting to see it like that because you've already seen in just a short amount of time. You've seen so many things. Like I mean, obviously, like what the nutmeg on Bullock, Spurs legend Bullock. I wonder if that happened in practice too or something.
Right? No kidding. And it's wild. It's very wild to like think about like the just how much those expectations have risen from
I mean,
just
so I mean,
game one
from
to game
stuff like
four.
that you see on the court to the video of the Mavs practice with the guy with the freaking long arms with the like extending things, you know what I mean, like beating up on people. Like it's just where we are now, and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, like you're again. We talked about it, like the Twitter stuff. You're thinking every day. You're just astounded by the fact that this guy's on your team. Then you watch him play. You know, a lot of people are harping on him for every little thing that he does bad. But man, they stay quiet. They stay quiet when you see the nutmeg. When you see the dunk from the 3 point line. When you see all these oops. When you see like I wish Devin would have made the three because like there's that backwards pass that he
Oh my
made and it
God,
was Kobe like. I was like, bro, what am I watching? What am I
there
looking
would have
at?
been there would have been like that. Honestly, that might have been the best one had he made it.
Yeah,
That would have been the best one. And
because
the picture of him like this, where in the background it's just Dev focused, ready for the catch, would have been like legendary. That would have been like top. You know what I'm saying? Like
hmm
so
Josh,
we're there, but the potential's still there. Go ahead.
Josh in the comments just said that I sound like Marge Simpson, and yeah, my voice is gone right now. My college stuff has got me like we had a powder puff game, and I was a head coach, so I went out there, try to be as coach like as I could be, and just lost my voice. But you know we're trying to bring it back. I'll definitely be good by next
You're trying to
week.
get ejected like Pop or what?
Yeah, man, I was them refs were not giving us a good call, so I was trying to be out there defending my players and stuff, but we're all good, you know, just a little bit of college excitement, you know, but I'll definitely be good by next week. That's why this is episode 0. That's why I was cool with getting on with my voice being like this, but for sure, episode season 4, episode 1, when we get that rocking next
Yeah,
week,
and
it'll be good.
we're working through it all. I didn't even know that my camera was off this whole time. To be honest, I can see you, Jake. I can see myself when I'm looking at you on
Yeah,
in the
but
stream. So
the camera's off.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and we'll,
Figure it out.
and like I said, episode 0, we're definitely gonna be getting some things situated through the year that are gonna make things look nice. I hope you guys have been
Hey,
enjoying those
but
those
yeah,
graphics.
and if anybody's watching this, whether it be live at any point if you check in, but on playback or whatever, if you have a comment or like, hey, turn this up, turn this down, you know, whatever,
Yeah,
do it.
let us know. Let us know so that we can continue to make this podcast a better product. Because I mean, we're just 4 brothers that enjoy talking some Spurs ball, and now that we got Wemby, I mean, we've definitely we've been we've been working on this podcast for the last 4 years, and I feel like it's one of those things where you get that guy. I mean, you get that thing that you're looking forward to on the podcast that you're talking about. It's gonna make you want to put that much more work into it. So I'm excited to see what all four of us have in store for this year, man. Because
And we did do it every year through all of the down years. You know what
mm-hmm.
I'm saying? We did it every year. So
and
we're ready.
we stayed as consistent as we could be. You know, we definitely definitely put in the work to try to make it entertaining through those last 3 years. But you definitely know that when we got this year, I mean, we're gonna be working hard this year. We're gonna be working hard. We're gonna be making this product look and sound even better than it has in the last 3 years. So very excited to see what we got in store for us. Just like what the Spurs got in store for us. So I mean, we talked
I
about
want
it.
I want more I want more lobs though for Wimby. That's what you know what I'm saying. I want to get more creative with it, but just
Hmm.
right now I don't think there's been any. I think Pop's been pretty clear about like yeah I haven't really been running a lot of plays that we're just trying to figure it out, and
And seeing
obviously
what he can
they
do.
probably run a couple sets. You know what I'm saying, but. Uh,
But nothing designed for
as
Wimby.
the year goes on and as the years go on, just to see more intentional, like this is how we get looks. Like there would be a point where you knew Tim Duncan had a few different looks that he wanted to get at the beginning of every game, and it was okay that the other team knew that those are the looks because he was gonna get his looks. You know what I'm saying? Because he was that good, and Wemby will get to a point, right? Because that's just how it's coming, where he'll have his couple looks and few ways that we like to get him going at the beginning of the game, and so I'm excited to kind of see those things start to take shape. Right now, it's just been a lot of energy, him running around, and he likes to chuck a lot of threes, and sometimes you're like, I don't know if that's the best shot, but you also just know that he can have that whenever he wants, so he's gonna figure out when's the best time to pull that stuff out. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
it's been it's been good all around. I mean, it's hard to try to find anything negative
No,
about any of the stuff that we did in the off season.
I agree, and I think that if there is only one thing that I can look at us to start looking better at is our rebounding. Zach said it like right after the first game that it was like a newfound issue, and
Yeah.
I mean Wemby 7'4", like he some days he's gonna get his due and it's gonna be easy for him to get like 10 rebounds or whatever, but I'm trying to remember what his exact preseason stats were, but his rebounds just weren't like too outstanding to look at for a guy who was 7'4". And even our team as a whole, but Jeremy didn't play all those games, and we know that he's going to be somebody who attacks the board like that a lot. And same thing. I mean, just seeing what these guys can do inside is definitely going to be interesting because I mean. I don't think I'm gonna be scared about a perimeter this year when you got a guy like Devin shooting the way he's shooting to start off. When you got Wemby attracting the attention that he does, it's gonna be easy for our guys to look good on the perimeter. But we got to see what we're gonna look like going inside when it's not Wemby. And then that's the other thing. When we don't got Wemby on the court, you can tell. You can tell when we don't have
Yep.
Wemby on the court.
Yep.
So
Big time.
it is one of those things where I'm gonna be very interested to see um, how the viewership looks when we go from Wemby on the court one game and Wemby on the court or Wemby not on the court
You
the
mean you
entire.
mean like if we know he's not going to be playing or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, stuff like that. Like just what it's gonna look like as a whole. Are people gonna be tuning in? And then like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about it? Can we get guys to step up and have a 40-point game when Wemby's not there, just so that we can stay in it. Things like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's gonna be a lot coming into it that we're very excited to see Wemby look good, but we also do have 14 other players on this team that um, might not be as invested into them as we are, right? But definitely, like, you got to be looking at them. You got to be seeing what they're going to be bringing to this table this year because um, this year might be the only year for myself. I don't, Chris, I don't know about you, but this year might be the only year for myself where I'm okay with us not looking good and not looking like we're going to be competing. Um, if we compete, it's
My
going to be good.
uh,
Yeah.
my opinion on that hasn't changed. You know what I'm saying? From any of the Demar years into any of all the way till today, it's just like I want to win every game. Also want to build continuity. I also want to see development. I also want to culture continue. I also want to see what um what kind of people in our organization from the top down are going to be willing to take over and are going to be taking over once Pop is not around anymore. Like I want to see all that kind of stuff, simultaneously. Just like all the players and everybody have said that there's a higher importance on winning. If they're gonna put a higher importance on winning, it just makes me feel more comfortable to say it out loud anyway. But that's been my message the whole time. I want to win. You know what I'm saying? So we do the things that we if we do the things that we need to do, and I agree with you when you were talking about Zach and well, I don't know if you were mentioning it in the same way, but I'm gonna kind of put Zach and Jeremy Sohan together, like of the rebounding success. They need to be the ones that are bringing that energy and that like force from the rebounding perspective. Um, they need to be the ones that are clearing space for rebounds for other guys, in my opinion, right? Um, So I want to see that be a focus. They're talking about defense being a focus. We're hoping that the strong shooting from our shooters continues. Um, and then we're hoping, obviously, the ace in the hole is that of this is just to help so when Binyama's offensive game really starts to take off. Um, so and we haven't, I didn't even talk about KJ at all, um, or Trey, or whatever. But so all of that kind of stuff. If we're doing all that, then we should be competitive. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with what you said too, man. Like lineups that did not look good when Wemby wasn't in there. Like it just not necessarily didn't look good. It's just you can see that they're trying to figure out who's the focus, like or when's the good time to pass, when's the good time to shoot, where's the spots, like pace and space and all that kind of stuff, right? So we'll be patient with it. I agree with you of like if it doesn't work out because we don't win, sure, I can take losses. I can take losses for sure. But I want to see us trying to play basketball the right way. I want to see us trying to win every single game. I want to see when Minyama be available. You know what I'm saying? If he's healthy, I want him to try to play. I think he has the mentality that he wants to play. Obviously, the league wants him to play. Um, so, I want us. I want us to handle. Um, I want us to show that we know how to handle a generational talent being on our roster. I mean, you got John Morant, you got Zion, uh, um, you know what I mean? Like you got these stars right close to us. They should be undoubtedly like the spearheading this generation of the league. You know what I'm saying? And it's some things that they're doing. It's some things that their organization are doing, and maybe even the league, right? Maybe just like a combo, hold everybody accountable. That's like not allowing that to happen. You know what I'm saying? Success
Mm-hmm.
on the court to the highest extent that they want, and success off the court too, and pushing the brand forward and all that. And we could do that. I have faith in our organization to handle that, and we need to because it's finicky and it's dangerous at times to have a guy of that magnitude. You know what I'm saying? So we've done it before. We've had success before, both on and off the court with guys like that, and so I feel like we're in the position to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's all here, man. I'm ready for it all to experience it all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I hear you. I hear you on that. That's like, I mean, again, I'm in that same boat that I want to see us win every game, but that like I keep it. I feel like I kind of keep us um, as grounded as I can be on just like the perspective of like me, you, Juan, and Josh. Like I'm probably just the most. I don't even want to say pessimistic, but I'm the one that just always gives like the lower answers, right?
Hmm.
Um, I feel like it's like one of those things where I would say like the outlook of the team, and um, you just can't help but like look at the other guys on the other teams and be like, okay, well, some of our guys just still have a ways to go, right? But like you go into this year and it's a flip, Now you're like just trying to see how competitive these guys are gonna be. You're just trying to see how good we're gonna look, and that's all I care about because I'd like to win. I don't care if I lose either. As long as we look like we're growing, then I'm happy. Like, because I know that this isn't the year that we're going to win a championship. We're not going to win a championship year one with Wemby, but this is going to be the year to figure out whether or not guys like Blake Wesley can fit on a team with Wembanyama. Guys like Malachi Branham, um, Trey Jones, even like seeing the growth of City Sissoko. Sorry if I butchered that last name. Um,
Sissoko.
Sissoko, right? City Sissoko, right?
There you go.
If a guy like City over the course of this year and in his time in the G League, let's see what he does and see if he can kind of fit the timeline. See if a guy like
Yeah.
Dominic Barlow, who's been with the team for the last 3 years, in and out of our G League system, see if he can kind of start to build a position on our team, on our roster. You know, there's a lot of guys on this team that you're going to be looking at and honestly, like with the magnifying glass to see if they're going to be good enough to fit with a guy like Wemby, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's a single guy on this roster that I'm like, I don't care to see what they're gonna look like with Wemby. Maybe Seti, but that's again like it's just because of of I guess not even fit right, but just like age and seeing like what our team's looking
Yeah,
like with him, you know.
but the same way that like I can't remember if it was an away commentators or our home guys. There was like a lineup that they did with Cedi Osman and or Chetty, right? I think they call him Chetty Osman. Um, but Osman and Doug out at the same time, and they were like, boy, those guys, it's just like a clone of each other, right? And they have very similar things that they bring to the table, right? Trying to move without the ball, and they're both kind of lanky, and they like to kind of finish. And I'm not going to compare Osman to Ginobili by any means, but he just has a little bit of that flaily nature about himself. Like he'll try to contort his body to get where he needs to go. Um, uh, so I don't know, like just trying to defend him, right? He was talking about like being I think he's like in his 6th year or 7th year, right? So I want to have patience and grace for Keldon Johnson 2 years from now. The answer is yes. You know what I'm saying? And I think he has a higher ceiling than a guy like Osman. So if he has a higher ceiling and he's still trying to figure himself out to even a more extent, you know what I'm saying? Like I want to have patience with him then. So I'm trying to have that same outlook with a guy like Osman now. Of like he's still working on his game. So if we can turn him into the best version of himself next year or two, then you know what I'm saying. Then that's a good run with us. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off
Good.
completely, but breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski himself. San Antonio Spurs center Zach Collins agrees to a 2-year, $35 million contract extension.
2 years, 35.
Yeah, 2 years, 35 million. Um,
Okay,
so that's
that's not
like
bad.
I think that's 17 a year,
Yeah,
17,
17
17 and a half, something along the
and
lines
a
of
half.
that if my math is correct. And
Yes.
I'm happy with that. I think how much are we paying him this year? We're paying him like
Look it up.
7 million, if I'm not mistaken. I'll let Chris look that up, but I'll talk about that right now real quick, just because it just happened. I love when breaking news happens about us during the podcast. It's wonderful. It's like spontaneous. You're hearing our very first thoughts about it because it is just happening. So I like Zach Collins. I really do like Zach Collins, and I thought, Chris Chris has been like the one that's probably criticized Zach the most, which I believe most of it's fair. I've never been like he's not worthy of the criticism that Chris gives him, but I definitely enjoyed a guy like Zach Collins and what he's brought for us. Um, Around the time that we were like kind of looking at whether or not we were going to be keeping him, uh, we didn't know if he was a starting caliber center, and I mean we traded a guy like Jakob and we threw him into the fire to just see if he could look like he could start, and he proved it. He stepped up. He stepped up his game, and it looked good. It looked really good. So I mean, we're paying him 17 million now. We're paying him that money to be Wemby's anchor for at least this year and 2 years forward. So I'm all for it. I think 17 million is again, that's around the same amount of money that Keldon's getting, and that's two solid role
Yep.
players, two solid rotational players that are on your team for the foreseeable future. So,
Yeah,
um,
and it also kind of just speaks to like um numbers are they probably kept quiet at certain times, but then they're public at some point, at some point, right? So kind of seems that all the Spurs are kind of on the same wavelength and willing to kind of hit in certain levels in terms of their salaries to help the longevity of the team and make the timelines work and all that kind of stuff. So definitely on board with uh, rewarding Collins for all the work he's done to get back healthy, to be a contributor, to step into bigger roles, to so I guess the same thing I was saying about having patience and all that kind of stuff for a guy like Osman. Zach Collins isn't around. He's around that same era of his career too, right? Probably like year 7, around there. So he has the opportunity now to have that security. Okay, we've put our faith in you. Now let's really go see you try to be the best version of yourself that you've ever been right now in this year. I'm saying, and you get to do it next to a guy like Wemby and all these other cats. You know what I'm saying? So definitely a fan of it. Definitely a fan of it. And it kind of, it's not as long, right? It's 2 years, so it's not as long as some of the ones that you're committing to for the longest period of time. Um, I wouldn't even I wouldn't even know if I would call it criticism, man. I've always had high expectations and wanted to speak to the responsibilities of the center position, right? And it's but let me be fully uh, transparent or whatever, and just say that I recognize way more often when I watch that just like everybody's committed to the small ball, right? And I know that and not to say that I didn't see it before, but just that you can just tell that. I mean, you can just tell that a guy like Zach Collins can have a longer career at the center position with where the NBA has gone. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the same way that you can see that we can give power forward minutes to Doug McDermott, and it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like at certain percentage of time. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like you can see it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to say that I don't see any of that kind of stuff, but just the way that we were speaking to rebounds and the way that they were speaking to rebounds, like size will always matter in that from that position. And getting the ball, securing the ball for your team, creating more opportunities for your team, securing defensive stops and all that kind of stuff, like that will always be important, right? And so people who are strong enough and big enough physically to make that happen is big. The same way that shorter guards are just kind of getting the bad rap right now because everybody's getting taller, right, and becoming more versatile wing players, and guards are forwards and blah blah blah. And we haven't even talked about that yet, right? The whole starting. I would like to dive into that, right? The whole debate that's been going on this summer with our starters, but same way that those smaller guards are not getting phased out, but kinda. Um, you don't want that. It could happen from the center position as well, right? So if you can just stay big there, you know what I'm saying? It just always is going to be important. So if he's up for the challenge, I like what we said earlier. I'm gonna back him up. I know he's gonna be backing our guys up. We're gonna ask him to be the guy who gets a little dirty this year too. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here for him on the roster for 2 years, 17.5, 100%.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where like, again, like he proved it. He proved it to me last year, and I was just like, all right, like I'm locked in. I like Zach Collins as our center right now. If at some point you can get an upgrade, maybe you start to look at it by year 2 of that extension. But like,
I mean, and really, you're hoping that Dominic Barlow steps into some stuff.
you hoping
Um,
Charles Bassey starts to look better
Charles
this year.
Charles is Charles is good, but again, like the same way that I talk about size at the 5, that's why a guy like Bassi, he's capped to me and to a certain level of excitement that I can give him. You know what I'm saying? He's
Mm-hmm.
got to start to like step past that for me to be like, okay.
I mean,
Dom's just bigger and more athletic. He can get up, so if he can grow more into his body and more into his role and blah blah blah, and he's aggressive as heck. He could be a Zach Collins light more than a guy like Charles Bassey can be a Zach Collins light, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's like one of those things for me where, like, I mean, we're seeing it. We're seeing, like you're saying, like these guys, they're still playing big, but they stretch the floor. They put the ball on the floor. They
Yeah.
aren't just run and dunk, you know. And again, Zach has showed like he improved on all the spots that he needed to improve to become a center, which was get those rebounds and start playing defense inside, and he did that.
And that's all I'm saying is like when everybody has, it's not that I have like super negative praise on him, but just most of the praise that he's been getting has been like the steps that he's taken as a space creator and his 3-point shooting and like that kind of stuff. And not to say that that's not important or whatever. I'm just always going to be focused on his
On
defensive
the
output
inside.
and the security that he gives us,
Yeah.
more than his offensive creation. That's just, and rebounding. You know what I'm saying?
And
Like that's just where my I want him to really take that part of his job seriously. And not to say he doesn't. I'm just saying like that's how I view him.
hmm
So and we've seen this year that Wembanyama is going to be an incredible help defender.
oh
And
yeah.
and to be honest, and it seems like having Wembanyama as your help defender is the scariest position to put him in.
hmm
So in that regard, Zach Collins needs to be ready to be the primary defender. You know what I'm
Which
saying? And that's just where I'm gonna try to hold him to. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
exactly, 100%. Which I mean, again, you gave him the extension because that's what you think he can do, and that's
Mm.
like I guess the way that I'm seeing it from the Spurs point of view, from the front office point of view, is like you're signing him to that deal because you feel like at least for 3 years of Wemby's career, Zach Collins can be there inside, being his bodyguard, being the enforcer, being the guy that puts all of that pressure off of Wemby. So Wemby doesn't have to
Yeah,
play that, you know? And that's where I'm like, oh yeah, 100%. I love that. I love that.
yeah,
So I'm like, I'm all for it. I'm excited to see Zach Collins this year. We
yeah.
have so
And
many
just
guys
to
this year
just
that
to
it's good.
mention from earlier, he was making 7.7 this past year. So nice little pay bump for him. So
Yeah,
congrats
10
to
million,
Zach.
10 million raise, and that's a like to me that's like again you look at the last couple years of Spurs basketball, especially pre like or the Domar era, and it's not the dark ages. You're not calling it the dark ages, right? It's not like we were in any type of like ugly situation. At some point, you were entertained by what you were watching from the Spurs, and you had something to look forward to. You know, which was not what a lot of organizations can say whenever they're in the situation that we were in after trading Kawhi Leonard. So it's like you look back at that kind of stuff and you try to think about the positives and what you gained out of it. And Zach Collins is one of them. Zach Collins is a positive that came out of that whole era of DeMar and then DeJounte and then finally getting into that rebuild.
Yeah, and you can't let a negative win. Derek White is flourishing right now. Dejounte Murray has stepped into a bigger role and has way more responsibility. And they're working through their own stuff, right? And yeah, maybe that one there was a little bit more of like some negative energy around it, right? But that's just the nature of the beast, being like you said, being down there. And nobody's immune to it, and we kind of learned that during this era, right? That the Spurs aren't immune to the things that other organizations have to go to in terms of the outside of the court issues and blah blah blah. But you can say that they handled most of the decisions in a good way. You could definitely have opinions on the primo stuff, good or bad, um, and whatever. But I mean, we've been through all that kind of stuff. Um, I would. Isn't that crazy that we still live in a timeline where like you could see excuse me, you could see like a guy like Jakob come back off of his deal that he got, and maybe he's like a backup now, or a guy like Derek White who gets a pay bump in Boston come back to be a starter that's making around the same or a little like maybe a little less because he got his payday, or something like that. Isn't that crazy that we just still live in a timeline where something like that could happen,
hmm
to kind of complete the cycle?
I mean, I'd love it. I'd love it. I feel like I was so like I think the one person that I wanted to see back on this team from like I guess that era of stuff was Patty, just because we saw him go through a lot of those trades, and I was just hoping that somehow, some way, he was gonna land with us. Um, it would have been pretty. It would have been beautiful, like just to see a guy like Patty come back to us after a failed Brooklyn stint, and things like that. Where just like you're saying, like I mean, they go through it, they get their money, or they try to compete, whatever, and then they just kind of come back to us. Um, I don't see a guy like Derek White ever really making his return back to San Antonio. I definitely don't see like Dejounte coming back. I think this last offseason was the year for us to try to pursue Yak. So I don't know if he's coming back either. There's stuff like that where we'll see like what it looks like through. Um, again, like the league's ever changing, so we'll see what it looks like through the next couple years, and maybe my tone's changing, but for sure, like last year, they're going into this offseason, I was like, man, if we could get Patty, I'd love it. I'd love it. Just to see him be on this team again for one more year. I'd be so happy. But
There's an endless, like that's way down the list, right? It's just a crazy time that we're in right now. Like
mm-hmm.
we get a chance to kind of just like be I don't know, free to explore all the possibilities. It feels like it's all wide open.
Any possibilities, man. Exactly, just like you're saying. Like even like just like the idea of trading for Dame earlier in the year. That's the type of stuff that you never even think about. But now that you have Wemby, you had the chance. You could have done it. Um, or even like I think I was on such a huge hype train of being like, let's trade for number 3. Let's get Scoot Henderson. Let's throw the farm at Portland and get number 3. Like do what we can to try to pair Wemby and Scoot together because that'd be wonderful. Um, but that's just like, I mean, who knows what likelihood that was gonna happen? It's literally just like just because now that we have number 1, we have so many more opportunities and so many things that we can try to go for it. And for some people that's scary. Like for some people it makes them think, well, we got to make it right. We got to make it right year 1. We got to start doing everything perfect from year 1. And I think for all of us, I think for me, you, Josh, and Juan, our outlook on it is that we're being patient. We want to see us look good. We want to see us look good for sure. But we're patient and we're not going to be upset with the team that we have. But we're also like there's also a lot of avenues and opportunities that we should be looking for and look to see what we can do. So super exciting stuff, and we'll transition to it into I guess our starting lineups, Chris, because that was one of the things that you wanted to talk about. For me, I didn't like care, I guess, but also I've seen what has looked good and what hasn't looked good, and I really do think like because the biggest discussion is whether or not Trey Jones should start, and I do think that we could live without starting him, but also you can see how much a guy like Trey Jones can help Wemby on the court. And maybe you do want that punch to start. Maybe you do feel like you want Wemby to have a good rhythm at the start of the game, every game. And if that's the case, Trey Jones might be your best answer because he's going to have the best ways Wemby's going to get his looks is if Trey Jones is out there on the court feeding him. That's the way that I see it.
I mean, when I was talking about earlier about Tim Duncan having looks that he would, but he knew these are the type of things that he wants to try to get into at the beginning of the game. Half of that is Tony Parker. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you only get those looks because Tony knows how to run that pick and pop. You know what I'm saying? And because he has the adequate pressure at the rim, because people know he's a good finisher around the rim, and he's got the spin, and he's got the teardrop, and all that kind of stuff. So, you would want, like you said, you would want a table setter at some point. I'll be honest too. Like, I haven't put my hat in the ring in terms of the whole debate that was going on this whole time about starters and stuff like that. But I would have erred on the side of Trey Jones starting, and then have your difficult decision about me versus Keldon, and let that be where you're to make your decisions or whatever. But I understand like they're trying to I think they are trying to see, okay, well we it's hard to try to sit Keldon and Jeremy or one of those two guys. We want to play them all, and Devin. We want to play all 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? So how are we going to make it work? Well, we need to have size to help Wemby because Wemby can't be the 5. So we got to have the, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I can see how it kind of pushes them into that position to say, okay, well now Trey can be we put faith in him financially. We have a role for him. He's still going to be our traditional point guard, but he's just going to come at a different time. We're going to try to give Jeremy some of those responsibilities. I can I can be down for it. You know what I'm saying? It's not my favorite thing. I still have the belief that the Spurs are going to be at some point, if they get a point guard. You know what I'm saying? And don't I don't have I don't need to get into that whole debate right about traditional point guards. Like, you'll know when you see a point guard. You'll know. And Jeremy, it really isn't that. It's been known that he's trying to become that. So
Hmm.
that's it's funny, like when they talk about like positionless basketball, like that's the whole point. The fact that we're talking about Jeremy having to practice it lets you know that it's not positionless. Like, it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
a point guard is a position that you have to think about in a certain way. So
yeah, I
it's
I
just
agree.
it's
I
kind of funny
agree.
how they mention that. But I do think that, like, if I think the Spurs will be prioritizing trying to find a guard that fits that mold, but knowing that they don't have one right now, use the time to try to get Devin and Keldon and Jeremy out there a lot, and make it work that way. Like, that just kind of feel where they're at. So I'm all right with it for now, and
Hmm.
and we'll see how it goes.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I mean, again, on that regard to positionless basketball and even the traditional point guard sense, like I think I was like the first person of us four to be like, yeah, basketball's positionless. You don't have to have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 like completely like set in stone, right? Because you can have a 6, 7 guy be your point guard on this team. But that's the point, is that like it's still one of those things where you still have to have, I feel like you still have to have that guy that can set the table, that can still start your offense and keep people in rhythm. Because if you don't have that, well, then it's a lot of self creation and there's not a lot of ball movement going on. And that's like, that's when it can get a problem. That's
It's all semantics, to be honest. It's all language and semantics.
exactly.
So,
Because,
if you were just to call it the point position, you know what I'm saying? Because you have your point guards and you
yeah,
have your point forwards, then
yeah,
it would change the way
the
people
outlook
like
of it.
discuss this
Because,
conversation, right? Because
because,
the guard position is, a more of a slasher and maybe a little smaller.
yeah,
The
and
forwards are bigger. Like, it is a size thing. But anyways, but
and one of like the like I to me like the two biggest examples for this are the two top teams coming out of the West right now, which is Denver and probably Phoenix. In my opinion, that's how I see it right now. Is that is looking to be the second best team in the West, right? And we don't have to talk about them completely, but like Jokic is their point. Jokic is the guy who sets the table for that team. Jamal Murray is good at playmaking. He's not bad, but like he's not the table setter. He's not the guy who starts the set like Jokic does. And then in Phoenix, it's Devin Booker, but it's Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant all on one team. You don't really need guys to set the table for them because all three of them are just great at shot creation. But our team doesn't have an all MVP Kevin Durant like that, all star Devin Booker, all star Bradley Beal on our team right now. So we kind of do need to have somebody that can set Wemby up and make him look better right now so that he can start to feel better about his game and start getting it to look more polished. And that's how I feel about it. A guy like Jeremy is great in transition. He's I mean solid at rim running, and he always, I feel like he has a good feel for when the pass needs to be there, and that's like the point stuff that you can see. And it's like, in a sense, Ben Simmons like, right? Because when Ben Simmons was in Philly and he was amazing and an all-star, his best playmaking was in transition. It was on the run because he could attack the rim, but as soon as that man was down the court, he knew where all of his guys were and he knew how to get it to them on the dot. And Jeremy obviously isn't to that level, but is close. Like, he is, that is where he excels at when it comes to his playmaking. And that's the type of stuff that, like, you're not going to be in transition all the time. When you're in a half court set, what is this team going to look like when we're moving the ball around? Because to be completely honest, I don't like the idea of Wemby having to be the point on that in the lineup in a half court setting. I'd rather
yeah,
see us setting him up.
there needs to be time where he's the off ball guy, and is creating pressure in those kind of ways. Um, and there's been times where our movement has looked pretty funky, our spacing has looked pretty funky. We don't really know the time to shoot is, right. Like, the pass would come and it's like, okay, are you gonna shoot this or not? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's there. Yeah, you want to see a better version of that offense. And I don't know what kind of talks they've had with Jeremy about like how temporary these kind of responsibilities are. It might be a thing of like, look, like Devin and Keldon had to step into these roles at this point of their career to help us with this. Keldon Johnson was out there having to defend Anthony Davis and all these big old power forwards. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's what it is. It's like, hey, for this year, we are going to ask you to uh, try to get us into some sets. To defend the primary point guard, the primary ball handler, we're gonna just make you be a very good defender. And then by the time you're done guarding Steph Curry, guarding a guy that plays the 3 or the 4 ain't gonna seem so bad. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be slower. You're gonna be ready for that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it is just one of those things, and everybody's on board. You know what I'm saying? All we've seen is that everybody's on board with everything that you know what I'm saying. Like we haven't seen a single thing that's like somebody wants it to be this way or this and that. It's like, nope, everybody knows what it is and we're ready. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's just where we're at. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to be like that. You know what I'm saying? But I do think in my head, my opinion or whatever, I do think that they are going to prioritize it in the future. I mean, they're going to continue to see what Blake has. We haven't really talked, or I didn't really talk about those guys a lot. But when you kind of talk about like Blake Wesley and the preseason he's had and that kind of stuff, and I would love to see a dogfight between Wesley and City for ball handling duties on the G League team, so that we can see which one of those is gonna, you know what I'm saying, like have some spot minutes with us, or some situational minutes with us, or some opportunity just to come and travel with us or something. You know what I'm saying? Like want them to push each other because City looks like he's got some stuff in there, and so does Blake. But Blake also, you can see some year one struggles in him, even though it's year is it 3 for him?
2.
2. Okay, so I mean, you know, they're only a year off, so I want to see them compete.
Yep.
Because I do think Spurs are looking for guard responsibilities. Even though Sissoko kind of he's a bigger guy.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
for
So
sure. City is. I mean, City is as close to the point forward archetype
yeah.
that we have on this
But
team right
but
now.
but right now he's still like he's a bigger guy, but he still looks like slim and young. You know what I'm saying? So you almost feel like you can mold him to stay young. I'm not young, but like stay kind of slim and
Hmm.
maintain that mobility versus pushing him down the route where he becomes more of that like power forward, or like a small power forward that can handle the ball. You know what I'm saying? Just like a little bit less of a Boris Diaw, like a way more mobile Boris Diaw.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I don't know. I see those legs, and I'm like, Jesus, dude. Like, how are you so slim? Like, how is his upper body so slim, but his
That's
legs
what
are
I'm
just.
saying. That's what I'm saying. He's slim. He still is like maintaining, and I know it's he's a kid. That's why.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I know that that's why. But it's just like he's gonna grow into that like his man body anyway. But if we can just keep him lean and mobile, and yeah, he's gonna turn into that power, that point forward. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
and maybe that's why we got a guy like Jeremy right now trying to learn it, because that's just where we're trying to head. I mean, for what I was saying earlier about not watching in the past, I was a fan of the fact that in the East they were one of the teams that was like, this is when they still had a Markkinen and Jared Allen, and they were like running pretty big lineups. You know what I'm saying? And I was a fan of that, especially because this was a few years ago, meaning the small ball era was still, I mean, it's pretty mainstay now. But every year that you go back, it's still pretty young. The small ball era, we're not that deep into it. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I've been a fan of it, and I think it was even like Charlotte, you know what I mean? Like, where they would just run big lineups at us, and it would kind of get in our way. This is when we still had guys like Bryn Forbes, and even to make Derek White feel a little small sometimes, and stuff like that. Demar. Um, so I'm down if that's the route we want to go. I'm the one that's been talking about size anyway, right? Um, uh, and I'll not I acknowledge that, and with a guy like Zach Collins, like his responsibilities go down with a guy like Wimby, and we're hoping to have Wimby be our guy for the longest time. You know what I'm saying? So we're definitely planning our future around that guy. You know what I'm saying? So if we're just doing it where it's like everybody's gonna help him out and everybody's gonna help Zach out, and that's kind of where we're headed. We'll see how it goes.
Hmm. For sure. Well, we got a lot of good talking about like our off season. We've got a lot of good talking about Wemby and about like our transactions. And then even good talk about like the guys that have been on this team last year that we're going to be looking forward to this year. So I think it's finally time that we start to wrap it up and actually talk about the season. It's one of those things for me where I'm very uh, again I said it, I'm gonna keep saying it all year. I don't care if we lose. I'm gonna be happy if we win, but I don't care if we lose because we're growing. And I just want to see Wemby on the court. I just want to see Devin with Wemby on the court. I just want to see Keldon with everybody on the court where he doesn't have to be number one option. I just want to see a bunch of different things for us and see how much we're going to be growing off of that. I don't really care if experimenting for a game or experimenting for things through a week, through a month, through the season means that we're going to lose some games. Because I just want to see us grow and see what works and what doesn't work. Because, again, to me, this season outlook is as positive as it can be. Nothing can go wrong as long as you're seeing growth. And I mean, yeah, Chris, like our outlook, I'm sure it's a little bit different, and we can kind of get into it. But Josh and Juan, they both had messaged us earlier about what how many games they thought they were going to win. Juan even was talking to me before the podcast about how he believes that Wemby, like at the beginning of the summer league, he was just like 18 points per game, like it'll be solid, it'll be good. But now Juan is full on believing Wemby's going to be an all-star this year and all that good stuff, and I'd definitely be happy to see something like that. But I'm not too sure what our over-unders were in terms of our line from Vegas and our wins. But for sure, it was like it was less than 30 wins. And I believe we're going to be over 30 wins. Juan believes we're going to be over 30 wins. Josh believes we're going to be over 30 wins. Chris, you think we're going to be under or over? Realistically, how you feeling?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the second time that I've been like in Vegas in the summertime and not put money down on the Spurs like I wanted to. I'll get there. I'll get there. I finally like saw the books and I was like, okay, I think I would understand. Uh, Feeling comfortable enough to go ahead and put money down. Something was holding me back, but easy. I would say like go over the 20. It was 28, right? 28 and a half. Easy, go over that.
Yeah, so it was 28 and a half to 29 and a half. So those are like
I
the
mean,
lines.
I was gonna go over on last year's. You know what I'm saying with and I think we did go over, didn't we? Um,
Couldn't tell you.
yeah, right. But I mean, I think that's where most people are having us, right? I would say like 30 to maybe like on the high end 34, 35, and then on the low end maybe like 29, 30. I think most people are putting us like right there. Um, if we reach 30 wins, the same way that we would kind of take benchmarks for like 50 win seasons, if we could get to 30 wins this year,
Be happy.
I think over the. I mean, I think so. Let me get the schedule back up. Like we're gonna have a good shot to. I mean, we get Dallas and Houston right off the bat, right? And so we could be 2-0 in our division, especially if Luka's not even gonna play. I don't know if there's any updates on like his hamstring or his leg or whatever they were talking about the other day. If he's gonna miss any kind of time at the beginning of the year, um, who's to say that we might not have a decent division record? You know what I'm saying, going into November, December. You know what I'm saying? But let's see. We got Dallas, Houston. We got Clippers, Phoenix twice. Toronto, Indiana, New York, Minnesota, Miami. I'm gonna look all the way to like December. If we're pulling out maybe like 6 to 8 wins per month or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like we can be on a good pace to be right in the mix, and with the level of competition in the Western Conference this year, like we could probably be like a 11 seed, looking in to get into a playoff or a play in or something like that. Like it could happen with 30 with a low 30s in the win column. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
trying to, let me look up the seedings from last year.
yeah, okay. So I have the seedings from last year, right? And
Oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
that's what I was gonna say. This is like probably one of my favorite things that we do every year is we talk about our win loss predictions and we look at what last year looked like and we see if like people have gone better, people have gone worse. And I will say we could end with 30 wins and still be 13th in the West this year. That's like, I mean, last year we were tied with Houston both at 22 and 60, right? 14 and 15 respectively. And 13 was Portland, who had 33 wins that year. So even if we end with 33 wins, 35 wins, even if we do exceed expectations, there's still a chance that we're 13, 12, still a ways away from playing.
Yeah,
Oklahoma
so
had to win 40 games to get to 10.
the question just means like if you're looking at the standings, right? The question is just like, do you think we're gonna have three teams that are pushing 50 wins this year? I mean, you probably could, and if you, the stronger the top is, the less wins that the bottom teams are gonna get. You know what I'm saying? So,
But at the same
I mean,
time,
40,
like, and
40,
that's
40 wins to 45 wins was the difference between 10th seed and 4th seed.
I do think that this year's West has gotten deeper. Like,
Yeah,
it's gotten harder. Like,
sure.
you look at it, and maybe Denver has stayed the same, give or take, on their offseason. They had a great offseason because
What I mean by that is if everybody's getting better, that maybe the top seed wins less regular season
yeah,
games.
right.
Not to say that
And you're seeing
not to say that it makes them a less of a team,
oh yeah,
and that
for
they're
sure.
not more fit for a title run or any of that kind of
For
stuff. But
sure,
just that they
but
win.
like even if the top seed is 45 wins and we're 30 wins at 13, like that's wonderful for us. But that's like, I mean, it still puts us at 13, right? It still shows that like
But
we still have a
I'm
ways to
just saying,
go.
like, imagine a world where we win like 35 games, right?
Hmm.
Let's say we win 35 games, and then let's say you take last year's standings and you kind of bump them down a little bit, and the Dallas Mavericks at the 11th seed are at 36 wins. It's like that's how close we could be to like a play-in next
Yeah,
year. You
for
know what I'm
sure,
saying?
for sure, and,
That,
and that's
that's where we could end up like that, like just depending on how it shakes out.
And so I mean, again, just a quick rundown of like other teams. Denver still looking solid this year. Memphis is gonna be without Ja for like the first portion, but not too much. He's still gonna be Ja at the end of the day, and I think they're still gonna
Who
win
they just
games.
got Derrick Rose.
Yeah, they just
To
got
kind of
Derrick Rose and
kind
Marcus
of
Smart.
Yeah, that's true. So I
Um,
mean,
so
they'll have some things to work through. They'll end up having a successful season, but we'll see how it impacts like for sure the beginning of the year, right?
yeah, Sacramento. I think Sacramento's still gonna be looking to compete as much as they did this year. Their moves this year, so and so. You lost a couple role players, you gained a couple guys, but you're just hoping that like you're able to kind of keep that magic between De'Aaron and Sabonis starts to
Yeah,
look better.
you hope it's not like Atlanta Hawks or something like that, where
Yeah,
it's like they can't get back to where they were.
yeah, exactly.
It was a
Right.
short-lived like little spike.
And then Phoenix, 45 wins last year. They're supposed to look good this year. You traded for Bradley Beal. You lose Chris Paul and DeAndre, and you gain Bradley Beal, and you also get a lot of former Spur role players, which means you're destined to look good this year. You got Drew Eubanks, you got Jock Landale, you got Chimezi Metu, you have Keita Bates-Diop, which Keita Bates, I'm telling you, man, he's like we saw it with Derek. You didn't really get to see it too much with DeJounte or Yak, but you definitely saw it with Derek. Keita's gonna look amazing next to those guys this year, and it's gonna be like one of those things where maybe we should have been able to try to get some value out of him, but for sure, Keita is gonna. I think he's gonna surprise a lot of people this year and how well he's gonna look for for Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, he's got all the tools to be a successful four. You know what I'm saying, power forward. And just to clarify, Jock Landale plays for the Rockets now.
Oh, Jock Landale's for the Rockets, right? Because he was on Phoenix
Yeah.
last year, right? So you lose
Yeah.
Jock Landale, but you get Drew Eubanks, and again Shmezi Metu and Keita Bates still.
And Chimezi's, fresh off of like having bigger
A
responsibilities,
good
being
year
a role player
in Sacramento. He had a good year in
Yeah,
Sacramento.
Yeah. So,
And yeah.
and also like sorry, I'm trying to look at the roster, or sorry, Phoenix. It's gonna be an experiment, right? To see Beal out there.
Mhm.
I do think that like just last year, like they were only able to get like a very small amount out of Chris Paul, like in terms of what they were hoping to get out of him. So I mean, and then obviously the off-court whatever's between Aiton and whoever on their organization,
Yeah.
maybe the coach or whatever the talks have been. I don't want to speculate on it, but
Oh, and
regardless,
they got Yusuf
they're going to be
Nurkic out of
better.
it too. They got Yusuf Nurkic out of it too, who's not, I was somewhat of a big Yusuf guy, like just before the bubble, because I mean, somehow, some way, like I was watching a couple Trailblazers games, and I just see how good of a role player he was for them, and then his leg gets like snapped or whatever, and it's terrible. And especially when you're a 7 foot big man, you're just gonna get that much slower because you just don't got it anymore like that. Um, and
Yeah.
so, he's definitely not the guy that he was a couple years back, but he's still a good role player. He's still a good role player, and supposedly the metrics and even Blazer fans said that he's a good defender. So, you're getting some good stuff out of that because you're just getting a more solidified role player rather than getting a guy who isn't sure whether or not he even wanted to be on the team anymore by that point. So Phoenix is supposed to look better this year. The Clippers, you're just hoping that you're healthy. You're hoping that you're healthy and you're staying the same way. Like I think they stayed the same at 5, and if they trade for James Harden, then they can maybe look better, right? But for now, like I would say, the Clippers are still in that 5, 6, 7, 8 range. Golden State's supposed to look better this year. They got Chris Paul. They traded away Jordan Poole. So now the team, again, same thing. You're looking more solidified because you traded away the guy that supposedly just wasn't working out with the team. The Lakers had a good offseason. They did have a good offseason. They retained a lot of the talent that they had last year, and now you're looking to have a full season with all those guys rather than the half season that you did last year. So um, you're hoping, or for the Lakers, you're hoping that they're looking better. Minnesota, I mean, you can have your woes about Karl Anthony Towns, Chris. I know you do, but I mean, same thing. They have the same squad that they had last year with a couple
Yeah,
additional
but
pickups.
but those guys, you can clearly see the excitement and the upward trajectory of Anthony Edwards, right?
Yeah.
And so you can see it to the point of, because they just run their organization kind of bad. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And yes, and then on top of that, you're right. Like Karl Anthony Towns has things about his demeanor and his game, not even his basketball, just more of his personality and his demeanor that holds him back, and his maturity. Coupled with the organization and blah blah blah. But like you can see Anthony Edwards is rising to the point where it can make, you could even see the organization change their priorities, right? It's like, okay, we're gonna pivot and we're gonna really have to make ourselves work with Anthony Edwards and the things that he's doing. You know what I'm saying? So he can force them to be better. You know what I'm saying? That's what
Mm-hmm.
great players do. They make your organization change, or the good ones, the ones that know how to handle that
Change
kind of
that
stuff.
culture.
But yeah, so like they have a shot. All the things that you said so far, I've been agreeing with, like in terms of the
The seeding.
paths to success for like these teams that you've been mentioning. Um, I mean, we'll see about the health for the Clippers. We'll see. I mean, with the Warriors, you kind of are. I don't know how much they're relying on like their super young guys at this point.
I mean, it's year 3 for a guy like Kaminga and Moses Moody.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you kind of do have to
you're
start. You have to
Yeah,
start
so
seeing these guys make that progression, because if they stop progressing, if they're not looking any better than what they did from year 1.
a guy like Jordan Poole, because whether you liked his timeline or the type of ball that he played, he was somebody that they relied on to give them production. You know what I'm saying? And he's a young guy, so they were putting time and energy into him. So I mean, yeah, obviously them getting rid of him does open. That's probably very intentional, right, for a guy like Moses Moody and Kaminga. But you also have to kind of make sure you have a healthy and steady season from Clay. I mean, you want Moody and Kaminga to take off responsibility for Clay and Steph to an extent, and especially a guy like Draymond, because he's another year older as well. You know what I'm saying? So you're hoping for health and stability from all those guys, as well as all of those, or at least those two young guys stepping up for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see about the Lakers' continuity. At least they will have more of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we'll see how they handle it. And every time LeBron James is in the conversation, you know that they're gonna do everything that they can to make it
Yeah, to compete.
to try to do, to do what they can for him, because that's just how it is with him. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how it checks out.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at? You're at New Orleans.
Yeah. So
We'll
now,
see about New Orleans, man.
yeah, now we're
Yeah.
on the back half of the conference, and you're getting a team like New Orleans who has had their rumors, has had their problems with a guy like Zion. He's not been healthy. He's not been able to stay on the court for too long. But I mean, they're still trying to just build around that. CJ and Bi are still doing their thing. They both looked solid last year. So again, you're just hoping that Zion can finally come back healthy and can finally start making an impact on this team like he should have been doing for the last 2 years at this point. So I mean, you're hoping that they look better if you're a Pelicans fan. OKC is supposed to look better. You got Chet, and you got a plethora of young guys to just continue to build around going into this year. Now, Shea is still Shea. Like, bro's, I mean, he was one of the most efficient players on the court last year, if I'm not mistaken. And their team behind them was not that great. So now you have another set of top guys coming into that team. You got to hope that at some point some of these guys are starting to look good for OKC. But I could see them staying in that 8, 9, 10 range this year. I could see Dallas trying to improve. They traded for Kyrie at the end of last year, and it just wasn't able to mesh completely well. But now they have a full season with Kyrie, and I truly do think, like, yes, Dallas is a solid market, but Dallas isn't Brooklyn. And when you take Kyrie out of that spotlight and you let him just play basketball, there's a lot more good that he's doing than bad. So, I mean, you're hoping that, like, off-court antics don't really affect Dallas this year, and that, again, they're starting to look good. Utah's kind of in a different spot. They got John Collins this year. They added more talent. But again, is that enough talent to get them to get to 10? Who knows? Portland's obviously trying to look bad. Houston got Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. Same thing. They're trying to look better. They're trying to look like a 10th seed. As a big Houston hater, if Houston doesn't make it to a 10th seed, their season's disappointing and they're bad again, and it doesn't look good for them. It's not a good look. But at the same time, like, I mean, you're still bad. You're still going to have another top pick in the draft. So it's not like it's going to be the worst situation for Houston if they're bad again. But as a Houston hater, I'm just happy if they don't make it to 10, but they're at like 11 and they end up with like number 12 in the lottery this year. I'd be so happy if I saw something like that. And then you got us. And for me, I'm hoping that we're competitive. I'll go ahead and name off or I guess, Chris, if you want to kind of talk about those teams real quick that I just ran through, and then we can talk about us and what our final like predictions are for the year.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I'm with you with New Orleans. Like, they have the tools. They have the tools to have a good year. It's always like it's been for the past couple of years. Going to rest on the shoulders of availability for Zion, mental focus for Zion. And then, I mean, I don't take in too much account to, like, the struggles that, like, BI had in the Olympics and stuff like that this summer. I think having to play through new responsibilities on that team and working through all that kind of stuff, you're going to get what you're going to get. And maybe it doesn't always max out, you know what I'm saying? But nowhere near his environment here. He's way more comfortable in his area, in his zone, to be successful and lead a group. But I do think that the pressure's on them in terms of, like, they need to start producing soon. The same way that I think the pressure's on a team like Minnesota. The pressure's on a team like, I mean, literally, like, okay, I'm gonna go up backwards again. Like, literally, if you take like, everybody's got the pressure on them to do good. You know what I'm saying? The Kings don't want to take a step forward. I mean, backwards. They need to keep moving forward and justify them giving up a guy like Halliburton. You know what I'm saying? And bringing in Sabonis and all that kind of stuff and the new culture they're trying to do. Like, they need to see progress. Phoenix needs to see progress for a guy like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, right? Like, the expectation is there now. You're finally out of Washington. We need to see you win now. Like, that's why you left. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they have the pressure. Clippers, when are we going to get fed up with saying the health of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? Are they finally going to be able to put that kind of stuff together? You know what I'm saying? Like, Golden State and the legacy, LeBron and the legacy, Minnesota and their organization, Dallas, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's got it. Everybody's got it. So the pressure's there for everybody. It's just like how is it going to kind of shake out? Utah, I'm with you on Utah. Like I feel like we're going to compete way more with like their outlook. Like they don't really. I don't know what their direction is. I think that kind of brings their talent level production down in the grand scheme. And who knows? Maybe they might start selling off their role players by the midseason, and they try to tank. Who knows? But I do think like with what they looked like last year, kind of more. I'd be willing for us to compete with how they produce. You know what I'm saying? Um, our outlook just a little bit. Portland, Houston, and the Spurs. I do feel like out of those three, we're going to be able to put it together. I don't want to say faster, but just like I'm proud. I have faith in the way that we're going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm right back to like I don't really fear the Rockets right now. I don't really fear the Sharp Blazers. You know what I'm saying? It maybe one day, maybe when Sharp, in a couple years, Sharp's going to be crazy and Scoot's going to be crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't seen no Scoot highlights.
No, I mean, you haven't seen a 14 minute Twitter video about Scoot yet. No, I hear that.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I agree. Like, it's one of those things where Portland traded Dame. They're gonna be looking to tank again. I don't think they're gonna be looking to like. Yes, Scoot's their franchise corner piece, but look at Portland's team and look at our team and look at how different the structure is. We built our guys up and then got our corner piece to go with the guys that we have. They got their corner piece and now they have to get the guys that are going to surround that corner piece. So they don't really have that yet. And I mean, you're overpaying a guy like Jeremy Grant. What else is going on over there in Portland? You got DeAndre Ayton. You have players that you can try to see. Kind of same thing like how we were seeing if a guy like Zach Collins could stay with us long term, seeing if Derek White was good, DeJounte Murray, all this kind of stuff, or if we needed to trade them now, get their value, and continue to still rebuild, right? If their just timelines didn't fit. So you can see if a guy like DeAndre Ayton's timeline's going to fit with Scoot Henderson. You can see if Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, these guys can work around him, but if they don't,
they've definitely seemed
to
commit to them verbally, and obviously they're still there post Damian Lillard, right? So they are the first iteration of what the team's gonna look like after a guy like him leaves. Exactly. So and I'm not trying to overlook them or any of that kind of stuff, and I do think that they probably have similar aspirations to us to see improvement, to want to be competitive, to maybe push for like a play-in and stuff like that. But just when I start to think about like us down there at the bottom now, you know what I'm saying? I want to think about how I feel like the West is going to be very competitive, and it is going to affect some of the win totals going into the year. Health of the legacy players are on the upper teams, right? Lakers, Clippers, Suns, Warriors, like they all, and they're older, right? So like health is on the top of their priority in terms of preserving their big guys for the big moments at the end of the year. So maybe regular season, they find their way to make their threshold so that they're not getting fined by the league and blah, blah, blah. But maybe regular season wins aren't the same, you know what I'm saying? And it's just about getting themselves ready for their title runs that they're all trying to go on simultaneously. So while that's happening, totals are dropping a little bit on the top end. We maybe have a chance to exceed our expectation, be a little bit more not polished, but just have a little bit more from a guy like Wemby out the gates that we maybe thought we were going to get. Maybe we see more consistency from Trey and Keldon. Maybe we get a version of point Sohan that we feel comfortable with and is productive. Maybe Trey turns into a floor general for the second unit. So on and so on and so on, right? Maybe those things like happen the way we want them to, and so I'm gonna be the optimist, or I'm just gonna sit on top a little bit of the numbers that you guys were giving, and I'm gonna say that let's shoot for 30. I almost want to say 36. I'm gonna say 36, and then let me just think up. I mean, in my head, I'm hoping that 36 wins is knocking on the door of a 10 seed, 11-10 seed. You know what I'm saying?
Trying to fight for that.
And if we get in, that would be awesome. I have no problem with trying to put ourselves right back into that play-in mix. That does not scare me at all, because we got Wemby now. That was everybody's who was anti in was that, well, you're away the chance at this. Well, we got this now, and we've already put financial commitments into Zach, into Devin, into Keldon, into Trey. So we've done it now. Just see the best version that it can be, and if it gets us to the 10th seed and we're playing for a play-in, don't be hating. Just support you dudes. You know what I'm saying? And see what they can do, man.
Exactly. Because to me, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong if you're a bottom 5 team. You can't go wrong if you are right in the play-in team for us.
If we get a complimentary piece to Wemby next year that we draft in the 10 to 18 range, fine. You got the number 1 pick. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That part is done. Mission accomplished. And let's take our winnings and not be greedy, and you know what I'm saying? Like, just be happy with success on any end.
And again, I mean, you still have all this draft capital. You still have a bunch of things that you could be doing to like try to work around it. And if we end up with like 12, and we're like, oh, well, we really actually wanted 8. We really like this guy that's going to be there at 8. So we're going to trade our pick, 12, and we're going to trade one of Atlanta's picks. We're going to trade one of the Celtics picks, the Chicago pick, the Charlotte pick, whatever. Yeah. You know, like you trade in anything like that just so that you can move up those couple spots. Like we have that flexibility to do that, so we can.
Yeah. And so let's just stay focused, and let's stay flexible, and let's stay, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think there's very few reasons to have a negative outlook on like where we're headed for this year. Obviously, we want to keep Wemby healthy, and all that, protecting him and the longevity of his career. So I just wish him a great rookie campaign. I think he's going to do incredible things. He's probably going to be in the conversation at least, right, for a defensive player, for a rookie of the year. You're going to have to talk about him. Whether he gets the votes or not, that's up to other people. But he's going to be in those talks. You're going to have to say his name.
I'd be stoked if Wemby is in defensive, like not defensive player of the year, but all defense team. If he's in the conversation of an all defense team in year 1, my goodness, you did something right. You did something right, San Antonio. You put him in the right position if he's in the conversation this year.
So that you know, just to kind of to wrap up, like that's kind of where my head's at, man. I'm all for it. I'm very excited.
And I think Juan and Josh are probably higher than what me and you were talking about, especially Juan. I'm excited to see what Juan's got to say in the next coming weeks, if he can get on at all and be able to, like, you know, just tune in, whatever. I can't wait to hear what Juan's got to say about Wemby, because off the podcast stuff, behind the scenes, he's been telling me a lot of good stuff, the way that he's feeling about Wemby. It's a lot of good stuff. So very excited to see what everybody has to say, how we feel about him. And again, excited for the team as a whole. But Chris, we're gonna wrap this up with a new big thing that we're gonna be doing for the scoreboard this year. I'll be honest with y'all, last 2 years I've tried to do some fun stuff with it, and I just completely fall through with it towards the end of the year. But I think this is something that's gonna be easier for me to be paying attention to, and something that Juan suggested that I think just works a lot better, makes it feel organized, and we're not having to like really go through a lot of like big point totals or nothing like that. We're just gonna be kind of going by it week by week and continuously updating it. So this year we're going to be having a scoreboard that I'm going to have a graphic for every week that just kind of has like what we're deciding for what we're doing. So maybe one week it's just whether or not the Spurs are going to win. Maybe another week is Devin going to average more than 4 assists. Another week could be, is Wemby going to have 2 blocks? Is Jeremy going to have a double-double? One specific question per week that y'all are going to guess on, y'all are going to predict. And then from there, we will have, you know, whoever gets their point from the week before, it'll get added onto the scoreboard for the week after. So,
okay, cool.
You know, starting off at zeros again. Like I said, I feel like this is going to be something that's going to be very easy for us to look at. Yeah, I mean, Chris, our question this week is going to be if you think that we're going to win opening day against the Mavericks. How you feel about it. I know we were talking about how Luka might be out, but we're going to talk as if Luka is going to be there. Just kind of give me your feelings on Luka, and if you can, tune in and just kind of look at the graphic and see what it's kind of looking like, you know?
Yeah. I real quick just gonna click on the Mavericks roster just to kind of see what their depth looks like because I honestly do feel, I mean, it just like the one thing that I had seen is say that there was like no timetable for his return. That's the kind of stuff that like gets me to be like, oh crap.
Like he
I'm
might,
saying
yeah, he might not play, right?
so not even that like oh maybe it's for serious, but maybe they aren't going to prioritize having him ready for opening night because I said they are going to think about their long-term goal, which is we need to get into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they're not inclined to want to get him rushed to for opening night, and they want it. Maybe they want to see what Kyrie would look like as the main guy right away. Um, Seth Curry, Dante Exum, Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, Rashawn Holmes, Jaden Hardy, Tim Hardaway Jr., Derek Jones Jr., Maxi Kleber. So Derek Lively, that's their new guy. AJ Lawson, Markieff Morris, Dwight Powell. Grant Williams from Boston. Okay, so they got they have some other guys who's like that. These are their continuity guys, like Hardaway and Curry's been there. I don't know if he's been there a couple
He's
years
returning.
or if he's back after being,
yeah,
I was gonna
he's
say,
returning
back
to
from
them.
being gone.
Yeah.
But he's been around. And then you got your and plus a guy like Dwight Powell and Maxi who've been there for a while, right? Those are like your glue guys. See what kind of stuff Grant can give you. Grant Williams, Derek, their rookie Derek. Long story short, again, just the uncertainty of them and me not following them and me coming off the high of the way that we've been playing and all that kind of stuff. Plus, like, thing we've seen in the preseason has come with most of our starters not playing in the third and fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna see it play out in different ways in terms of when our surges come, when we have minutes with Wemby off the court, and like how long those extents are, and we're gonna get better at executing them. Hopefully by the first game anyway. So I'm ready, man. Let's start 1-0.
Yeah. All right, sounds good, man. I am in the same boat. I like our chances against Luka and them. I'm very excited. My new roommates this year, they're huge Mavericks fans. They're from Dallas, and I was telling them, I'm like, every time we play, we're all sitting down. We're gonna watch that game because we're not like I'm tuning into every Spurs game that I can this year. And I'm gonna make them watch Wemby a couple times, and if that means that they have to watch their team get stomped by Wemby, then they're gonna watch it. So
and it's gonna be fun. Division matchups are always fun. You can see a game like this getting a little chippy between like maybe a Dwight Powell, Markieff Morris, and a Zach Collins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying.
I thought you were saying it's gonna get chippy between me and my roommates because that's true. It's gonna happen.
No. Well, I mean that all that's built in, right? So you guys
Yep.
can have those. That'll be pretty fun to kind of track along the year. I mean, all signs point to having a really fun opening night on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Very entertaining. I'm very excited for it. So, yeah. I mean, this is the new graphic. To be determined on whether or not I'm gonna stick with like how it looks right now. But it's just something very simple. Juan and Josh both said that they're gonna that the Spurs are gonna win. So I also agree. I feel like we're gonna win. This is just how I think it's gonna look this year, and like I said, hopefully by next week I'll have like a better looking graphic that'll actually have just look a little bit prettier.
Oh, okay.
But
I can see it now. I can't see. I'll be honest. Like I can't see it from the Discord, but I'm looking on YouTube now and I can see it.
yeah, that's most likely how you guys are gonna be able to see it. Just because again, like we're doing this through a different streaming platform. The last 3 years we've used StreamYard, but this year we're making that transition to OBS. And I haven't had just a lot of time to work with OBS just yet. Even like today, our streaming is like on 480 as like our definition, and I'm pretty sure we can get it up to 720. So if I can get it to do that by next week, I'll be looking to have it like situated. So things like that where I just wanna we're working on it right now. This is why this is episode 0, and that's why that graphic looks very simple, very to the point, because that is supposed to be a graphic that we're gonna be using all year. So we wanna make sure that you guys are entertained by what we're adding to the podcast, and like I said, this
and like you said earlier, we'll try to have more follow through with some of our ideas and that kind of stuff because at the end of the day, this is just to be a creative outlet for us and for you and for anybody, right? So just finding ways to kind of follow through with some of those things a little bit more.
Exactly. Just like our podcast says, we're here to just have some fun. This is a great hobby for us. we love the San Antonio Spurs basketball team. We followed them for years. Juan or Josh and Chris have watched them since they were babies, which led to me and Juan watching them since we were babies. And I mean, we've just all like we've been watching Spurs basketball our entire lives. So we've been there for all the ups, we've been there for all of the downs, and I feel like we're as excited as we can be about having a guy like Wemby on this team. And I think again, all four of us can be ready to put in that work to make this podcast a more enjoyable product this year. So it's exciting stuff. And again, like even like Chris and I, I don't think we were planning to have it be an hour and 45 minutes, but we were able to just kind of go on and on and on about the Spurs and what we're excited to be looking for. So stay tuned, y'all. Stay tuned to see what we have in store for this next year. But yeah, with that being said, this is around the time that I'll have like my set outro, but I'll kind of keep that for our next season type stuff whenever we actually have our official season 1. So Chris, you have any last thoughts on the season as a whole, things like that before we start wrapping up?
Nah, I mean, I think we've talked a lot. We said a lot because there was a lot to be said. Like a lot of stuff happened. So just real quick, throw a shout out and congrats to Becky Hammond on her back-to-back in Vegas. I was able to tune in. I know everybody was watching Rangers and Astros and Cowboys, and most of the stuff I was watching was Aces and Spurs. So
that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, no kidding. Shout out to Becky Hammond. Shout out to the Aces for getting that back-to-back. WNBA is a special thing, man, and it's entertaining too. It's entertaining. Don't let people fool you. You can definitely get some entertainment by watching the WNBA players play.
And to win on the road, like without a couple of your starters in and all that kind of stuff. And I enjoy watching Asia Wilson. She's definitely coming to her own and all that kind of stuff. And then it's fun obviously just to be a supporter of Becky and to see her screaming out there and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, good stuff from them to finish their year.
100%. Yeah. So I mean,
go Spurs.
Yeah. With that being said, y'all, we hope everybody has a good day. We're gonna be coming back to y'all weekly, starting next week. So can't wait to start another good season off. Hoping that we get a good dub in, and again, we're gonna have plenty to talk about next week. But with that being said, hope everybody has a good day, blessed day, and we are out.